a common sense approach to money in a world of total insanity. Let's welcome Tony D'Angelo.
All right, every Tuesday morning we get a wake-up call from the one and only Tony D'Angelo. And we always appreciate him digging deep into a lot of these different topics. You can follow him on Twitter, Tony D'Angelo7. Tony, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Lee Elsie. Good morning, everybody. I'm proud to be among you. I'm glad you got a chance to chat with my pal, Bob.
Bob seemed like a wonderful guy, such a nice man, and doing great work for folks with epilepsy.
And here's a guy who, just basically works on a shoestring and does wonderful things with a nonprofit, which is what you're supposed to be doing with a nonprofit. Not like our esteemed governor, who we're going to be talking about today, but the whole intention of, doing good is doing good, and Bob's a great example. But, we were chatting off the air. You meet some wonderful people as you go. You meet all kinds of people. Not all of them are wonderful, and I'm very grateful today for Twitter. And I mean, it sounds like you're grateful, Tony, for a sewer system. Well, in a matter of sorts, but I am most grateful for the connections we've made across the state and across the country. Because if we did not have this, if we did not have an Elon Musk, and for me, the jury's out on Elon Musk. I find the whole thing interesting, but just the whole thing of people just terrified of just people speaking out and proving their point. We can't have that. This is a terrible thing. But I'm very grateful in making friends on Twitter with some folks from New Jersey. They kind of tipped me off what's happening there. I tipped them off on what's happening here, and we find a lot of common ground, and that's not at all surprising. Because it was the whole thing of, COVID-19, the governors, the brother governors, and how they were going to save the world and all this other kind of stuff. So one of my friends in New Jersey had tipped me off on Governor Phil Murphy, Governor Ned Lamont's brother from another mother. He did something very interesting. He came out and said, okay, people, you don't think I did right with what I did for COVID-19? He was, slightly more transparent than Ned Lamont, which means there was a little less mud in his puddle. He said, I'm going to subject myself to a detailed audit. Now, if you think that I'm saying that, Governor Murphy's of a higher integrity of ilk and, things like that, I personally don't believe that. I believe what he's trying to do is have a prop audit so that he can elevate himself up the ladder politically. Look at me, I'm spotless and I'm blameless, and, maybe he becomes a VP candidate. Laugh at me all you want, we've run worse. But all of that said, Lee Elsie, this gave me an idea. Since Governor Lamont was so enamored with Governor Murphy as a role model, and should we not, if anything, bad enough in Connecticut with the standards we have, we don't want to fall behind Jersey, right? So why doesn't Ned Lamont do the same thing? Throw the doors open, throw the drawers open. Let's have a COVID-19 audit. Every single thing that Ned did. They're all talking about how fantastic he was. They wouldn't trust. They wouldn't pick on him. He wasn't picked on during the campaign. He should have absolutely no difficulty whatsoever in spilling out everything that took place. Now, I'm talking everything. Every note, every email, every deliberation held inside of Advanced CT, every McKinsey contract and document, every communication between Lamont, Gabali, the DPH, let it all hang out, warts and all. And not only that, you don't have to do what Murphy does. There's 2 points here. You don't have to spend money in a prop audit and throw your favorite accounting firm a bone. Just throw the documents out there like they did with November 22nd, 1963 in the National Archives. Let us see what you did. After all, Ned Lamont, if you're that great, if you're that wonderful, if you are the gold standard for all governors, we need to know your secret sauce. We need to know what you're doing. And because this is a matter of the public health. Let's see it all. Let's see Jack Rubenstein. Let's see the $18 million where the invoices don't match up. Let's see Semaphore. Let's see the PPE purchases. And, my personal view is if you want to have numbers, call on the auditors of public accounts in the state of Connecticut. They do fine work. They could do a whole lot better work if somebody would take the brakes off of them. And I mean, I am so tired of the shams and, people running around and covering up for this guy. It's like, it's got to end. It's got to be over one of these days. But that is my first thought of the morning, my friend.
I say to that, First of all, I put as an odds maker. If I was an odds maker, I'd put that at like 1,000 to 1.
Well, personally, I'm very happy you said that. Go to and I'm going to use this term, gutless wonder politician. Not every politician is a gutless wonder. Unfortunately, a lot of them are.
Right.
Public pressure. Make them do it. Ask them why they're not doing it. That's the only thing. I mean, the political system will not do it in and of itself. His clown media is not going to do it of himself. I mean, we need to know what's happening here. And I mean, if nothing else, since the political campaign did not do, in my estimation, what it needed to do, win, lose, or draw, I mean, what's so great here that, it's like, oh, it's great, but we're not going to let you see it.
What is? Let me ask you this. Maybe you've got a better grasp of this than I do. What's to be gained by the Fourth Estate for not pushing this? I mean, it can't be money. I mean, what is it? Is it, why isn't the Hartford Courant? Why aren't other newspapers? Why aren't other television stations digging into this? Is it resources? Is they just don't have people? They don't. I mean, it can't be that they don't care, because nobody likes getting screwed, Tony.
I understand that. I believe that they're concerned about a denial of access. They're concerned about their bread not being buttered, and I think they're just concerned about the fact that this whatever you want to call it, this chummy buddy relationship, that they will be looked upon in shame. This is right. My basic thing. As far as what's beyond that, whatever the case may be, I don't know. The function of a journalist is to tell the truth, whatever it is. You can put your opinion on it, but you got to put the facts out there. That's what I think is gained. I think they see him as a lifeline. They will do anything to protect him.
Tony D'Angelo?
There can't be any possible explanation.
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out. I mean, I don't even know. We don't have any answers from this governor. We don't even know where, quote unquote, supposedly he was donating this SEMA money windfall to. Wasn't that something that was? Well,
yeah, and I'm very happy you brought that up. And I am my father's favorite broken record son. I'm still hung up on this. It's that. We have this whole debacle. 38 cents a share yesterday on Semaphore. 38 cents a share. Think about that. The wonderful company coming that was going to save us all. Now, we've got issues with the, or shall we say questions with the tests, sometimes up, sometimes down. We talked about people being tested, same test, 2 days in a row, one positive, one negative. But there was testing. And what I'd like to do, and you have that there and you'll kindly play it, a very good friend of our show is in the process of a procedure at Yale New Haven Hospital. And she was given some instructions for getting ready for the procedure. And if you will play that audio, I'll be most grateful.
Here we go.
So the nurses will be talking to go your history. If you have the procedure on Tuesday for your eye, there's no longer COVID testing needed. You have to worry about that. So you will get phone calls from the nurses to look at your history. You will get phone calls from us and the carrying community prior to trying to provide.
All right, so if you can...
Now that's fine. It's a little hard to pick up. But one of the things I do want to make clear is that is Yale New Haven, the Yale New Haven Health System, saying that you do not require a COVID test for a procedure today. You do not require it. So, so much for the public health and so much for the public good. The gov's out of the money. We're to the producers in 1968. You want timey, you got to bring Checky. No Checky, no timey. And I mean, it's basically this is what goes on. You have to ask yourself the question. We've got RSV, we've got flu, we've got COVID. No, you don't have to bother. So then you got to wonder. But to your point about charity and, the money going to charity, I finally had a chance, because I got through my October 15th, to look at the SEC docs this weekend as far as what was made and or what could have been made. I just pulled one prospectus, and this is the prospectus of August 12, 2021. The Lamont Camp, Oak HCFT, this was Oak 2, had 6.3 million shares on game day. Now, let's just say Ned and Annie didn't own, or their trust or their kids' trust didn't own anything, okay? we're just going to use a basic 2 and 20, which is the hedge fund way of being compensated. 2% of whatever the number of shares was, and then 20% of the gain. That would have brought us to $138 million without owning a thing. But let's even get beyond that. It's a lot more than what the newspapers have told you. Let's just look at the undisputed things that just we can't make. They're there. They're facts. They're out there. The COVID tests were no bid. I mean, everybody said that. The Republican Party said that, for crying out loud. A number of investors lined up with this corporation in order to make a profit, right? $45 million, 0.3 of our state money, went to prop this thing up. Minimally. We're not even talking the double billing. We're not even talking about what might have been billed out through the health agencies. And there is a total of $15 million worth of loans, a 2% sweetheart loan where there's no loan guarantee. The loan guarantee where Mount Sinai, they just said, hey, you don't have to bother. We're in a SPAC. We'll get paid back. And, within the cloak of night, left the taxpayers with the bag. So here is my thing. Again, we're back to public pressure. We're down to public pressure now. Political systems failed us. The state-run media has failed us. Ned and Ann Lamont, pay this money back. Pay the $15 million back. I mean, because you had a profit motive. You went into the state. You had no bid testing. You came with all these people, shot fish in a barrel, and then when the test got better, you got out of the business. Let me ask you something, Lee Elsey. If you bought a brand new truck and you didn't insure it, you want to save a little money and you wrecked the truck, you don't have to pay the loan back, right?
Well, of course I do.
Yes. Here's all these people, with a profit motive, and they're hoping you don't know about this 2% sweetheart loan. They're hoping that you're not called to pay it back. And again, I'm going to use this term in most cases, gutless wonder politician. You need to tell these people, tell me what they tell you, because this is just horrible. This is just a shame. And I mean, I can't, if you go and you do something and you lose money and you create an obligation, you still got to make good on the obligation. And they're hoping nobody sees a thing, but heck, we fooled them.
Tony D'Angelo 7 on Twitter. I feel, I keep going back to the same thing, and I know the people who are listening do not fall into this category. But the reason why there's no
right.
No, but the reason why we have no movement on this is just not enough people care. They just don't care. They don't care that they're getting screwed. I feel like that's the case, or they don't feel like it's affecting them personally. So if it's not affecting them personally, they're like, oh, whatever.
Well, there's also, quote unquote, a higher good or a constructed higher good. Ned, who won't show us anything that he did for COVID, and Ned, who was the savior of us all, and Ned, who kept us all safe. There's a lot of people out there that believe that he did this out of the goodness of his heart. He took the risk. And he should be, he shouldn't be criticized for this. How dare, the George Collies or the Tony D'Angelos or the Lee Elseys criticize him for this wonderful work. But let me ask you something. Mm-hmm. I'll show you about that argument. If you were a investor in this thing and you're with them, and they came to you and said, we're going to do something very magnanimous, they would say, make a charitable contribution. We ain't in this thing to lose money. We are in this thing to make money. So that said, okay, instead of doing a public offering, instead of doing this SPAC and running, pumping up the market and then dumping out and all this other kind of stuff, what about one of these, Fox nonprofits he's involved with? So, Advanced CT, 4CT. Get a hopped up charitable appraisal and make a charitable donation. It's a lot better for you from a tax standpoint. You're going to realize that,
right,
immediately, instead of quote unquote having some sort of a loss that you may or may not realize ever. I mean, this is so bogus, and this is why I'm just so angry today, that it's just that, we've been failed, we've been lied to, we've been tricked, and they still want to trick us. And it's like, how dare you ask the question?
Again, Tony D'Angelo is with us. Moving one more subject before we run out of time, and our pal, Mr. Ned, does go to Washington, doesn't he?
Mr. Ned goes to Washington, and this is the thing, and this I think was the blasting cap in my brain, Lee Elsie, because this was, nowhere will you read this in Connecticut media, but this was a very, very, very critical matter of international importance. International is kind of like my thing. I'm not really, I'm more attuned to national, but Emmanuel Macron of France, the Prime Minister of France, came here because he wanted to have a discussion with our sock puppet president about, you started this Inflation Reduction Act, and you started going green, and do you realize in doing this you're breaking existing covenants with our country? And, this is not good for us, and, kind of how dare you do that? Now, whatever the outcome was that, I guess they were still talking, but this is something where, you had to put your best foot forward. Whether we have Joe Biden for 4 years after this, or whether we don't, this is something that is a, whatever you want to call it, a platform or a critical matter for international affairs of the United States and Europe. So when that factor, and when you saw that dinner, and when you saw the people, and when you saw the women dressed to the nines, and when you saw the men in the tuxedos like Macron and his wife, they were like figures on a wedding cake. They were so well dressed. And they, because it's a big matter. You've got to put your best foot forward. So then we have a picture of Ned and Nan. Now here's Ned. His tie's not straight, his gut's hanging out. He's got some sort of high water hairy pants on. Whatever those shoes are, and he's running around with a sign saying, "Hey, France, take a look at me." They're going to look at the janitor, pal, before they look at you. Thank you for shaming us all. Thank you for walking on the international stage. I try very hard. I am not a perfect person, as you know, but I try very hard to make the best appearance I can. I want to make the best, the best impression I can. You never know who you're going to meet. And here's this guy in the international stage, and he is making a fool out of us. Nobody in our clown media says that. Nobody brings it up. And no Republicans, where are you? Why aren't you criticizing this? This is a horrible indictment of the people of Connecticut. We're not all like that. Whoever's listening. I try very hard not to be.
You would think somebody in his inner circle would pull him to the side and just say, listen, we're going to give you a makeover for this. Just, we're going to get you looking the way you need to look for this particular presentation. But nope, you're right.
I'm sure he stuck out like a sore thumb. Who's this clown? What's he doing here?
Tony, good stuff as always.